Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Thanks for coming on. What is your clean date?
Okay, so I originally got in methadone in May of 2013. Okay, so I don't exactly. Okay, so I'm trying to think how to explain this. Okay, so when I got into methadone, it was right about my son's birthday, which is the 16th. I can't exactly remember what day that is because it's been a lot. But after that, I have had 7 surgeries since then. So I still look at myself as being clean because I'm not on. I know I'm not out here spending $300, $400 a day. So my bills are paid. My kids are, home. My kids, I did lose my kids at the beginning of this whole ordeal years ago. Um, Matter of fact, I ended up going to prison. My kids are home. I ended up adopting a baby 8 years ago. So I still look at myself as clean, even though every now and then I do have to have an opiate, but it's not like extremely. So I still look at myself as being clean since May.
Yeah, because you've been on methadone the whole time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not leaving my methadone. Like at this point in time, they feel like it's safe for me to just to stay on the methadone versus to come off of the methadone.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
like I have heart problems. My back, my bladder no longer works. I ended up with like a staph infection, which they still try to say it was from the drugs from years ago that just kind of popped up over time, slowly. But I'm not buying all that because I had already been clean like 6 years when all that happened. I
Yeah,
think that's just their excuse to put it on something.
yeah, I can see that. I mean, I lost my gallbladder because of my years in addiction, and I was in recovery when that happened.
Well, see, like when I had my first back surgery, I kept going to the hospital because I had a pain in my back, and they kept sending me home and giving me pills. Well, this was 11 days in a row, and every single day they were just giving me a different bottle, Valiums, prescription Percocets, Lorcets, muscle relaxers, and they'd send me home. By the 11th day, I had left at like 3:30, 4 o'clock that morning. We had left one hospital, and I had went home. Well, about 3 or 4 hours later, I woke up and I was completely paralyzed. I was urinating on myself. I had no feeling from the waist down. So of course, they come got me again and took me back to the hospital for them to tell me that I had an abscess that ruptured on my spinal cord. And of course, we did seek out for a lawyer, but that was their excuse. It was an addiction caused problem,
Yeah.
and I feel like that was just their way not to pay it.
So, where did you grow up?
So I am from what we call it the Valley over here. It's Aiken, South Carolina, or
Okay.
I'm at the border of Augusta, Georgia, and South Carolina. I'm really right here at the border.
Oh, okay. Is that
Yeah,
where that's where you grew up?
I have been here for 39 years. I did leave for a little while when I first come home from prison, which is probably part of the reason I got clean. I had left and went like an hour and a half away to get outside of the area where I didn't know nobody. It didn't exactly work the way I wanted it to. It still did not help my addiction at all. Um, I kept coming back every week. Every time I got money, I would come straight back over here, an hour drive, and get what I needed and go back over there.
Yeah.
And eventually, when it got to the point to where the guy that I was getting my stuff from went to jail, and I didn't really know a whole lot of people. And then the Lorcets, when I was taking 20 and 30 Lorcets, and an hour later I was detoxing. It was like I'm done. So I finally had checked myself into the methadone clinic.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll get to that. What did you discover first, drugs or alcohol?
Um, I've never really been on alcohol like that. Like I've drank alcohol, but it's never been like a give me thing. My biggest problem has really just been when I first got on stuff. It was back then when we had OCs, the original OCs, and I was like, Jesus, probably 21 or 22. My addiction started because I was 20 years old and my oldest was diagnosed with cancer. She was 3 years old. She was diagnosed with a terminal cancer. 33 days later, her brother was diagnosed with a terminal disorder. He had a disorder that was going to cause him to grow to a certain point, but then go backwards. Now, I'd never done anything my entire life but what was mine. And my husband was drunk on his way home. And okay, so my daughter was diagnosed in April, my son was diagnosed in May. And then that October, my husband had a wreck and killed our best friend. And I lost it. I lost it. He ended up in prison for 12 years. I had 4 kids. I was by myself. I was trying to do chemo and radiation. I was trying to do therapy with my son 3 and 4 days a week. I had no help. I didn't have nobody. I've never had a mama. My mama died when I was in elementary school, so I didn't have nobody. My dad's like really, really older, so he couldn't deal with the kids, and I just didn't have nobody. And instead of, you hear people say, "Oh, I would never take my life that way," you don't know that, because I was definitely the one that you would have never thought would have ended up that way, and I sure did. And I
How
mean,
are
it
you,
just happened.
how are you sustaining getting the OCs? Because weren't they expensive or were they cheap because it was back when they first came?
No, they were not cheap, but that was the problem. I was an only child, and my daddy made really good money, and it didn't matter what I say, he handed it over. And I tell myself, everybody's like, "Well, you were so lucky." No, I wasn't, because that was part of the problem. That luck that I had played a huge misfortune because he never could tell me no. He never would tell me no. My bills were always paid. I always had my drugs, and I always had a car. Because of that, of me not never running out of money, I never learned what it was to actually, detox until it was he retired. And then that's when it got to the point to where I didn't know what to do. And that was about the time that I went to the methadone clinic. And for years and years, he would just, I remember pulling up at his job, and he would have, a $2,800, $2,900 check, and he would hand me everything but like $200. And that, I love my daddy. Like, I take care of my daddy now, but that plays a huge part of my addiction. I don't deny it. And I guess that was his way of loving me because my mama wasn't here. But that played a big part in my addiction.
So you didn't get into stuff when you were younger?
Nope. Never did. Never did. I mean, I dabbled like with alcohol and stuff like that, but never did. I never did cocaine. I mean, I had my first child when I was 15. It was a rape case from being drunk, but it was like a one night occurrence. It wasn't like that. It was literally 4th of July weekend. It was me and a couple people. After that, I kind of calmed down for a little while, went back to school, and then I didn't end up pregnant or anything like that till I was 17. My kids are all 4 by the same guy. I didn't never touch anything like that until I was about 20 years old, almost 21.
So how were you introduced to it at such a young age?
My kid's daddy was very wild. He was very, very wild. I was kept inside. I was a very church going person. My mother and them tried to keep me on the white path, so every time I would like run the other way, they would pull me back in. But at this point in time, I was legal. They couldn't pull me back in. And I think that's played a part in it. I had 4 kids, and they kind of believed the whole concept of you got to get married. Where I didn't marry him, but I still played the married role. I was at home with the kids, where I would not. Matter of fact, not my baby that passed away, Adea, but my other one, Brianna. He wasn't even there when to sign her birth certificate. He literally stole my car keys while I was in labor, and I didn't see him for 2 months later. Like, even with us reporting the car stolen and everything else, they would not make him bring the car back. They wouldn't even have it reported stolen because back then it was common law marriage. So he had every right, no matter whether he had a license or anything like that. The car wasn't even in my name, it was in my dad's name, but he was legally allowed to do that because it was loaned to me, which is loaned to him under the statute of common law marriage.
So you had 4 kids before you were 20?
21, right at 21. Yep, they're all doorsteps. Well, 5 technically, but my oldest one I had gave up for adoption. That was the rape baby. My parents raised him as my brother, but my oldest one was Adea. She was born in September 2003. Brianna was born in September of 2004. Daniel was born in September of 2005, and then Jeremiah was born in May of 2007. They were right back to back. And
With the same
I
guy?
think I call it the fairy tale role. Females are embedded to, the perfect home is mom, dad, and kids. Like, now I don't allow my kids to see anything with fairy tales in it because I feel like it impressed into these kids' brain to where this is the perfect household, where it's not. It's not. Single parents can do it just as much as the 2 parents can. And
Yeah.
where I tried to make it work and I tried to do what was best, it wasn't what was best in the long run. And
Yeah.
it's taken me a whole long to realize that. I really, years and years.
So 2007, after you had your 5th kid, and that's when your addiction kind of took off?
Yeah, Well, what took it off was, like I said, Daya had got diagnosed with cancer in April. Daniel got diagnosed with his genetic disorder in May. And then Chris ended up having that wreck. And it was a one-car accident. It was they were at a party. They were supposed to be staying the night. The guy that they were partying with, his wife, got up in a rampage, started yelling and screaming, and kicked everybody out. They left. It was him and a guy named Brandon. They left. On the way home, they didn't make it. They were literally 3.5 minutes from the house when he wrecked, and the guy in the passenger seat died. And he ended up getting 12 years. He done 85%. He done 10 years and 4 months to the door. And he just got released in 2018, in August, matter of fact.
And that was for.
They charged him with felony DUI with a death result.
I was going to say he was under the influence.
He was. Like, and I think that when he officially went to prison, I think that I lost it. Like, now I have a lot of anger towards him. Now I'm better than I used to be, but I feel like he left me to deal with everything by myself when he should have been there with me. And even though, like, now I can tell you exactly why I'm angry with him. I can tell you what it is, and I can tell you why, but I can't let it go. And no matter how much, like, I want to let it go, I can't let it go.
Why? What is it?
I feel like, okay, so the guy's house that he went to, the girl, he was chasing her. They were having an affair on the side. And if he'd have been where he'd have been supposed to be, if he'd have been at home with his family, with his kids, he would have never went to prison. But instead, he chose to chase that girl down instead of being with us. You know, our daughter had chemo the next day. She had radiation. You chose another life. And because you chose that other life, you left me to deal with everything by myself. Like, he'll tell you now that it's his fault, that my addiction's his fault. Now, I don't completely blame my addiction on him, because I could have done it a different way. But as far as him leaving me, I do blame that on him.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, but then.
Were you addicted to oxys the entire time?
Okay, so I have dabbled with heroin, but it wasn't, for some reason, I could always end up getting pills some way or another. My daddy, even at one point in time, would go to the doctor and get me pills. So I've never really, heroin's never been my cup of choice. It never has. So I've always had pills I've always had a way to get them until it got to that point.
Yeah, that's how I was. I always had access to pills, so I never had to do heroin. So I did pills for a decade.
Yep, it was, right, very, very close. And that 1 year that I was in prison, and even when I come home I went to prison. I got locked up in August of 2011. When I got locked up, I was stuck. Like, when I called my daddy, I had an automatic 90-day charge to where I had to sit there. I had to do time. There wasn't nothing I can do. It was driving with no license. So I told him, I was like, well, it was August, and my court date was like 2 weeks after that. There wasn't no point in getting me out.
So why did you go to jail in the first place?
Okay, so I had got caught serving drugs. The guy that I was dating was a meth cook. He done shake and bake, so he pretty much just supplied my habit. It wasn't a meth habit. Now, granted, I dabbled in it, but it wasn't my habit. He was a meth cook, and I got caught driving the car while he was serving somebody. I was in the bathroom. I was actually in the gas station bathroom. So I ended up with my driving charge, which was an automatic 90-day sentence because I had so many. I was a habitual offender. And then they charged me with conspiracy because I was in the bathroom when he was outside serving, and they had me on camera while he was talking to the undercover. So I had to sit there. The county that I went to jail in only done court every 3 months. So by the time I had served my 90 days for that, it should have been time for me to go to court. Well, that's not how it worked. I sat there that court term. I went in August. I sat there that court term in October. I sat there, not October, in January. I sat there all the way until April before I got out. It was April the 19th. No, April the 3rd. April the 12th, I think is what it was. But my daughter died 8 days after I come home. My daughter died. So when I come home, well, right before I went to court, it was a week before I went to court, they called me while I was in jail. The doctors told me, they said, your daughter's, this is it. We can't do anything else for her. She's here. She wants to go home. She doesn't want to be here. So they put her on the phone with her, and they said, I don't want to die here. I want to go home and die. She's 8 years old. What do you tell her? I can't let her sit there and die in a hospital because I refuse to sign the DNR. The only way I can sign the DNR is if I allowed her to go home. So she was already dying of cancer, and with her me signing the DNR, if they would have tried to resuscitate her, it would have caused everything to collapse. Her ribs would have broke up because of the cancer had ate her for so long. She had cancer for 5.5 years. She was done. So I signed the DNR. Okay, the day I come home from jail, she had not yet left the hospital. She died right after that. Literally 8 days after I left, or 8 days after I come home from there, she died. I kind of went nuts for like, I don't know, about a month or so before I moved all the way out to about an hour away. When I moved out there for that hour away, I tried, but I was still coming back here every single week to get what I needed because my daddy was still handing me the money. Like, it never failed. It would be like, it would never be a question when he would get paid. He would automatically know I'd be sitting right there waiting on him. And he would never, ever tell me no. And it just got to the point to where it was like my habit was so bad. And then I couldn't really find what I needed. Could only find stuff that was nothing. 5 or 10 milligrams, that's not going to do anything for me. My habit's way too beyond that. I mean, it would never work. So it
What
just
would
got
you have it up to?
The last that I was taking morphine pills right at the end. I was taking 100 milligram morphine pills, and I don't like morphine, but at that point in time, it didn't matter. I just could be sick, and I could take 5 or 6 of them a day, and even that really didn't get me high, but it would make me not sick.
Did you eat pills, or were you a snorter, or were you an IV?
I'd inject them. I was no better. Like, I started snorting them, and when I lost my kids, when I signed my kids over, which was like 3 months before I went to jail in that August, I had signed my kids over. Is when I started shooting up. I think that I kind of lost it. Like, it all boiled down in one time. Like, by the time he went to actual prison, he had the wreck in October of 2007. He actually went to jail in May of 2008. And by 2010, I was full blown out of it. I had DSS case after DSS case. I would be late, never on time. I went to court for my girls having truancy, where I didn't see I was in the wrong, which I still don't see I'm in the wrong, but they took me to court for truancy because my one daughter would go to the doctor with my other daughter while she was getting chemo and radiation, and the homebound teacher would come there and pretty much teach school to both kids, but they didn't look at it like that. They would give me a hard time about it. I went to court for truancy. I went to court for being late to the doctors, but in all reality, I don't say it's all my addiction's fault, but I was trying to handle too much at one time. And instead of me really looking for resources and help that were probably there, that's not the way I looked at it. I just had too much to deal with. And see, where most people take pain pills, they fall asleep. I don't. It keeps me awake. It keeps me going where I can get through my day and do what I need to do.
No, yeah, pain pills didn't make me sleep either. I was doing the Roxy 30s, and I did them for 9.5 years. And when I did them, they would wake me up. They would give me a pep in my step. I could drive for hours.
Yeah.
People would always question me because I was driving 2 hours to get them for the last 2 years of my addiction. And I would be withdrawing the entire way there. And then I'd be high as hell coming home, but I would be driving a lot better when I was under the influence.
And that's how I was. I have 3 stepkids. For my first husband that I was with while my kid's daddy was in prison. We're not together no more, but his kids will tell you now that they never even realized I had an issue. Like, their daddy used to try to tell them all this stuff, and they were like, she wasn't like that. They never noticed it because I hid it so well. Because, but at the end, it got to the point to where I think in a way I was just tired. I was really tired. It gets to a point. I remember, and I tell everybody, it was tired. I was tired of fighting. Because, see, even when I checked myself into methadone clinic, I had a warrant for my arrest. Because I went to jail one more time after that. I went to jail in December of 2013. I went to jail. It was a violation of probation charge. The lady had violated me because I had went over the state line, because I'm right here at the border where I was. My probation was for South Carolina, but I had went over the state line to Georgia to go to my daughter's funeral, and I didn't have a travel permit, so she violated me, and I ended up going to jail. I ran for almost 2 years before they caught me. When they did finally catch me, the judge was like, the whole purpose of her 12 months probation was so that she could go in society and be a person who is not out there breaking the law. He said she may not have been on probation while she done it and reporting, but she's clean. She don't have any charges. The only thing they got me with when they arrested me was driving with no license again. Um, I done that probation for that. It wasn't even a probation because it was Columbia County, so they just kind of gave me a little fine and let me go because I had no charges there. Um, and the judge dropped everything that I had. When I went to court, he dropped everything that I had. I have not been back to jail or anything like that since then. Now, like, I run 2 convenience stores. I've been here 4.5 years. I'm management here. Like, this is my office now. Like, everything, that's what you hear going on up front now. It's the front of a gas station. And, I stay a lot of time here. I focus a lot of here. My brain goes the wrong way. I come here and I find something to do. I have an 8-year-old at home that I adopted. Her mama is where I've been. I don't never deny her mama access to her. She's not known by her mama. Her mama is allowed to see her whenever she wants to, but she's not known as mama. She's known as aunt. But I don't feel like keeping that baby away from her is going to make her get her life together. Because my kids were kept from me, and it only made me worse. It only made me worse. It made me think that what was the point? What was the point? So I just don't feel like keeping her from her mother is going to do anything.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I'm trying to keep the timeline in my head. When you went to jail in 2013, you were on the run for like 2 years before you surrendered.
I didn't surrender. They caught me. I was driving in the rain in the car that I was in. I had hit a hole, and because it was raining, the car to jerk, and the cops thought I was drunk. He told me, he said, I thought you were drunk. He said, I had no idea that it was just fate, is what I call it. Like, I had been tired of running anyways. I had been looking over my shoulders. I remember when right after I first got clean, there was the cops, because I was living in a town called Grovetown, and it's a very small town. There was only like 8 cops there. Everybody knows everybody. The cops there, even, they actually wrote a paper for me and told Aiken County that, I had been there. They had seen me, I was a model citizen. I had been all in front of them. And it's just, they didn't never even know it. I had been right in the police station with, the neighbors' kids and friends of mine with their kids doing whatever activities for Halloween or whatever, and they never even knew I was running because I didn't act like it. I wasn't out there. I wasn't doing anything I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't high.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. So you were staying clean that whole time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had already been clean. Like, at that point in time, I had not had my surgery. I didn't have my surgery until, 2000, and it was April of 2018. It was April. Matter of fact, it was April 29th of 2018. This was when my surgery that happened, and it caused a whole downfall. And there's been 7 since then.
And there's been what?
7 surgeries since then. Y'all keep it down. Sorry. Yeah, there's been 7 surgeries since then. There's plastic pieces all up and down my platelets. It goes about this far down my back. It's just they try to say it's from the drugs. I'd already been clean. I'd already been sober. I don't buy that. I think that's their excuse to get away with the fact that they ignored me for so long. Because they just refused to treat me. They would give me pills and send me home. And I did hire a lawyer. We did hire a lawyer, and the lawyer tried to do it. And that's when we found out they're trying to blame it on the drugs. And I'm like, I don't see that. My bladder's never worked since then. I have to use a catheter to go to the bathroom. It doesn't contract. The muscles are messed up in it from the damage of my back. My feet go numb. They swell. They retain water. I have no feeling on the bottom of them. Like, it's caused so much problems. Like, And I mean, granted, it could be from the drugs, but I just don't see that's what it's from. I think they just put it off on my drug habit.
How long were you an IV user?
From the time of, let's see, that would have been in 2010 to when I got clean in 2012.
Oh,
So
okay.
about 2.5 years or so.
And whose idea was it for you to go on methadone?
There was a guy. Okay, so my youngest daughter, the one that's adopted, her mama was a friend of the family, so she's been around for years. She was dating a guy, and he was like, "You need to get on methadone." And I was kind of like, I'd seen several people on methadone over the years, and I'd also seen people overdose on methadone. I mean, I've seen like a lot of people overdose on methadone. I wasn't looking at the fact that the reason they were overdosing on methadone was the fact they were mixing so much stuff together. So finally, he talked me into it. He took me down to the clinic, and when I went down there to the clinic, I don't regret it at all. He did take me down there. He did help me get started. And like I said, at that point in time, I was tired. I was very, very tired. I mean, I was just tired of fighting altogether.
Did you ever think about what would happen if you got off the methadone?
I actually have been off the methadone. I actually have been off the methadone, and every time I go off methadone, I end up with something going on in some type of surgery, and it was just like they feel like now it's best that if I just stay on it because of they don't know when I'll have to have another surgery, versus me going back on the pain pills and completely relapsing. They just would rather me stay on the methadone because they can't predict when I might have to have another surgery and what may happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have come off of it. Yeah, I did come all the way off of it.
And
I was off
because
of it for about, I think, about 5 months. About 5 months when my surgery come about. That was my second surgery. I think it was my second or third. I think it was my second, not my third. It was either my second or third, but I think it was my second. Because I've had so many back to back that they kind of dwindle together.
you think you're gonna have to have more surgeries?
They want to try to fix my heart, which has a hole in it. They do believe that plays a part in me retaining the fluid that I have a lot. My legs and my feet swell so that I can be on my feet on a register for 3 or 4 hours and I look like I'm 9 months pregnant. Um, Now, whether I let them do that, that's a whole different story. Because at this point, I don't know. I'm tired of being cut open and being sitting there. Because I always feel like right after I have surgery is always the worst time for me to relapse because I always feel the strongest need to want it. I always crave the worst. So if I can prolong it, I'm not going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
just not going to because that is the biggest struggle for me.
Do you think the methadone's helping with the cravings?
I'm on a very low dose of methadone now. Like I'm not as low as I used to be. I used to be all the way down to 25. I was tapered all the way down to 25 for right at 3 years maybe. This very last surgery that's been about right at a year ago, I went all the way back up to 60 milligrams, and I'm at 60 now, and I've been there since then. But I was at 25 for years. So I mean, I do tend to taper down whenever I feel the need. I'll taper down. Because I don't. If I start feeling myself sleep more, or like because I call it the methadone drunk is what it is, because you get to a point you're not out or whatnot. Well, when I get to that point and I can feel that like that, because my body's adjusted to it for so long, I will taper down because I don't like to be like that. I can't function like that. Like where I used to want to be that way, I don't want to be like that now. I feel like I can't. And where my oldest kids are home, my youngest is there. I don't want them to see that. I feel like my oldest kids seen that where they don't remember it. I don't want I don't want them to see it now. Brianna's 19 now, and then my son is, but because Adaya passed away from cancer, which we talked about that. My other son that had the genetic disorder, he passed away last August. So Brianna's 19 now, Jeremiah's 17, and Brooklyn's only 8. I just at this point in time, I'd prefer not to let them see me like that. If I can make sure that they don't see me high, then that's what I'm gonna do.
And you get take homes?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I don't go. Okay, so I can have my 2 weeks worth of take homes. I don't do that. I tend to go every other day. I feel like it helps me stay on a schedule. There's a few of us that do that. I'm not the only one. I know there's a few of us online that are like that. We go, every so there's a girl, one girl I watch online. She goes every day. Where I don't go every day, but I do go every other day. I pick up on Fridays and come back on Monday, but I go Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It kind of helps me level out. I feel like it helps me keep on a routine, and it helps me keep going. Like I get up anyways and go take my baby to school. I live beside a school, so she doesn't have the option to ride a bus. And even though she's 8 years old, she's Asperger's, she's autistic. So I refuse to allow her to ride the bus. We already had an incident where they did release her in kindergarten by herself outside in the rain. So I tend to make sure I'm right there now after that happened. So I'm already up, so it doesn't really bother me to go up there. Like now, about a year ago, December will be a year ago that I entered a clinic that actually gave me free methadone. I used to pay for my methadone. I had been paying for my methadone the whole time until last December. I've been paying $17 a day for years.
How far do you have to travel to the clinic?
Okay, so originally the clinic that I was traveling to was about 35 minutes away, and now it's only about 15 minutes away. They opened a clinic in Aiken. They had opened it a couple years ago, but I had been at the Augusta clinic for so long. For me to break up with them, it was harsh. But it got to the point to where me spending $17 a day and how much I've spent over the years, I was like, yeah, I can't do this no more. That was $100 a week that I could change, and then I had to get a new car, and that $100 a week now goes on my car payment. So even even now, when the doctor prescribes my medication because of whatever's going on, I don't let it get to me. I don't feel like I relapse. I just, you know, take it, and then whatever's left over, I typically throw away or I take it back to CVS. I've learned, my bills are paid. Where some people say, well, you still relapsed. Well, you can look at it like that. My bills are paid. My kids are not unwanted. They're not untaken care of. My 19-year-old, I'm very proud of her because she has $1,100 rent a month, which is really high for this area. She works two jobs, to make sure that she don't, become what I become, what her daddy become. Because even now, her daddy come home and he is right back to the same life before he went to prison. Like he has no change at all. So, I feel like me changing plays a part in the way she lives now.
That makes sense.
Because she definitely has seen way too much over her years. Not many kids are 19-year-olds will say, hey, I've buried two of my siblings. Both my parents have been to prison, you know, and she has. She has definitely watched it. Last year, when I had to pay that funeral by myself because there was nobody else to help us pay it, she definitely come out of pocket with it. At 18 years old, she helped pay for her brother's funeral because there was nobody else to pay for it. And I wasn't as prepared as I should have been, but it's kind of hard to prepare for things like that.
Yeah.
Because they had a pre-existing illness. You can't get insurance. There's no life insurance. There's no nothing. You just have to pay out of pocket. And I'm definitely not as rich as I used to be first in my addiction to where I had that money at hand the way I did.
Yeah.
My daddy's retired. He's 78 now. He just he sits at home, which he's sick now too. But so I don't have that money at hand anymore. I
That
do
makes
think
sense.
about like what I could have done with that money over the years, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's like that.
No, but I like to think of it as I was making, spending $200 a day on my habit, $300 a day,
Mm,
but I was doing them in ways and means that I wouldn't do now. I'm not going to go and sell pills, you know what I mean, like I used to. I'm not going to go middleman people and help them get pills anymore or make money doing that.
yeah, I would never go take my daddy's money now. Not now.
Exactly. So if you didn't need for it back then you wouldn't have had that all that money stashed away today.
I think about it. I'm like, and even now, I have a friend of mine who's close to me, and she reminds me so much of myself 20 years ago. And everybody's like, "Why do you baby her? Why do you baby her?" Because I know where she's at. I know where she's at. I've been where she's at. I make sure her kids have what she needs and they need, and I can't do it so much because she's not going to do anything till she's ready. And that's all I can do from this end, just make sure that I'm there for her and them kids.
Yeah.
I've been out at 2 o'clock in the morning and went and got her all the way from 3 hours away. I don't regret it. I'd do it again. It's just to make sure that her and the kids are safe.
But I appreciate you sitting down and taking the time to go through what you've been through. It's not easy burying a child, let alone two.
I think I look at the whole concept of that is, you love your children. As a parent, you are set there to protect your child. You are there to make everything go away, and that is a situation you cannot make go away. That is something that you can't make the pain stop. So I don't look at it as my children are gone and they left me. I look at it as they're pain free now.
Yeah.
And you hear people say, "Well, how do you get out of bed?" Me sitting in bed is not going to help me raise this 19-year-old and make sure she does right, or the 17-year-old or an 8-year-old that I now have. That I never in a million years thought I would start all over with elementary school, baby. But I did. And back up. You might as well come on. This is my 19-year-old, Brianna.
I'm the one working the register.
So, she's nosy. But, I just do what I have to do for them now.
I hear that. Well, thanks for coming on, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
You have a good night.
Have a good night.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.